Okay, hi. This is sort of going to be a rant video of sorts. I was going to do a short, and then I realized that I couldn't fit everything I wanted to say solely because it's not well thought out into 3 minutes. So we'll see how long this goes for. But last night, I went down a rabbit hole of video essay analysis type videos, and I stayed up for several hours, and I'm incredibly sleep deprived, so I now have a lot of opinions. I mean, I have a lot of opinions anyway, but that's not really the point. So obviously this starts like any good story, but anyways, and so, but I stumbled across a channel that I am now relatively kind of obsessed with, not like full-on obsession, but I definitely vibe with him. I hope this is the correct pronunciation of his name. It's Mark Insco. Again, I don't know. It was a long night. But it was a video, and I think the title was something along the lines of like, is it girl math or just crippling debt? And for many reasons I enjoyed it, but specifically because ever since I first heard somebody use the term girl math, I was like, what? No, what the hell? And this is not to call anybody who has ever used the term girl math, continues to use the term girl math. I'm not calling you an idiot or any of those sorts of things. I don't mean it that way. Like, everybody has made poor financial decisions. Obviously. That goes without saying, you know what I mean? It's not that, it's just, I guess it's an expansion on something broader, which I might start ranting about. But anyways, it was about how I did not know that these sorts of, these companies, I don't know what the term is called, but anyway, like these payment plans of like, oh, well, you can buy this thing now, and then you just pay in various different installments so that you can get it. And I did not know that this was like a recent thing, because the people that I surround myself with, they don't use these, so I wasn't aware of it. And just my internet circle does not have that. I guess, I don't really know. But so like Klarna or Afterpay, those sorts of things. And so then I got this thought in my head, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I just, especially because I know a lot of random history facts for a variety of reasons, but I couldn't stop thinking about it as I was watching the video, and so then I did research, whatever. So I would like to share something with you all, I guess. I don't know, that sounds weird, but anyways, so in roughly like the 1920s, or the Roaring Twenties, or the Gilded Age, which, by the way, because I guarantee you that your U.S. history class probably didn't tell you, but the reason the 1920s were called the Gilded Age the Gilded Age was not because everybody was doing fantastic. It was because the very upper class, the wealthiest people, were doing very well. They were killing it, you know? But then everybody else didn't get that. So it wasn't because like everybody was thriving like you would think based on what a lot of history classes tell you about the Roaring 20s. That's not what it was. So I like that fact. Anyways, and so okay. So in the 1920s, there were a lot of new products coming out. There was a lot of new technology, everything like that. And a lot of these products are things that we would consider incredibly basic necessities today, you know, to keep your food cold, be able to do a variety of things. There are a lot of different things going on, specifically in terms of products, because the simplest way to kind of think about it is, in my opinion, is just to say like, people had more money in a general sense. People did have slightly more money than they were accustomed to, so it was a good time for products to be coming out because they had money to throw away. But specifically, this applied to the rich, who would spend extravagant amount of money on relatively useless things, solely to show off their status. But outside of that, during the 1920s, there became this new payment method that was sort of all of the rage, and it became incredibly popular, and I would like to share it with you, all right? So they were called installment plans, and they were basically a kind of purchase plan where the person getting the plan would agree that they would make a series of different payments instead of just paying for paying entirely all of the money up front. So if you wanted to buy a new device or an expensive item, whatever it was, that you couldn't afford to put all of the deposit down at once. That moved. Anyway, also I apologize for lighting. It's just weird. I don't know. We're just gonna live with it. But if you wanted to do that, you could just get a plan from a store, like the store you were at, whatever, and then over time you would pay them back. And of course there was interest for these plans. But anyways, these, the sort of increase, this rise of installment plans did allow a relatively large amount of Americans to be able to afford these products that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to. Some people called it consumer credit. So again, it was a buy now, pay later sort of payment purchase plan, whatever. And then in terms of the interest, about, I think the most common form of it was each month that it took for you to pay off the debt that you got from using the installment plans. People were charged interest, and so the interest was added to the total amount that they owed. So if they couldn't pay their bills very quickly, or they didn't have money to make their monthly payment, whatever it was, their debt would get higher and higher. And so I couldn't stop thinking about installment plans when I was watching the video about these I don't really know, buy now, pay later sorts of plans of and so I couldn't stop thinking about it, of all these people who are trying to make these purchases, and because they can't afford to pay everything up front, so they're doing it, and so they get different payments. But the thing that is very strange to me, and one, obviously I think we all are aware of how well things went financially after the 1920s. The Great Depression happened and people were completely screwed over. I think we all learned about that at some point, I assume. I don't know. But in terms of right now, he provided several different TikToks from different creators who were saying how much they love using Afterpay or whatever it was, and saying about how well, it's just girl math. Instead of making this insanely large, I think one of them even said, well, I have to pay $5, then if I just do it in 4 different payments, I just have to pay $125, so it's obviously cheaper. And I'm relatively sure, based on the way that the creator in that video was aware of the fact that it still equaled $5, but the overall mentality that kept coming up, which is sort of what the video essay, whatever you want to call it, was about, was just the use of saying that it's girl math is very strange, because it sort of, you're just talking about getting into massive amounts of debt that you are just piling onto. There are people out here who have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because of these plans. And obviously I will say again, it's not shitting on you if you use these plans or if you have whatever. It's not shitting on you if you use the term girl math necessarily. It's not that so much that bothered me. It's just these one TikTok that was in the video had a creator who I think was 25-year-old chick, and she, for some reason, decided to disclose on the internet she owed their IRS, I think it was $34,000 or something like that. And that's not good. I have to tell you, it's not something you can just girl math your way out of. Like, that's crippling debt that will swallow you whole eventually if you don't figure out how to get that under control. I don't know how else to say that, and it really bothers me. And I understand, like, obviously I understand the point of these kinds of payment plans, of these sorts of purchasing plans, is to have you think that. Is to think, oh, well, it's basically cheaper, even if you're aware that it's the same thing. It's basically cheaper if instead of just having to pay it all at once, I just pay it out in installments, if I just have to pay it off like 4 times, 5 times, whatever, to get the thing, then it's basically cheaper. It's worth making the purchase. That's what they're counting on. That psychological effect that people have to these sorts of plans is what keeps these sorts of is what's keeping these companies like Klarna or Afterpay or whatever. That's what keeps them running, is that psychological process of like, oh, well, if I just pay it out in this many installments, then it's basically like I'm getting it cheaper than if I just paid it up front. That's the point. That's why they exist. They're betting on the fact that you think that it's a more financially responsible way of doing something because it's basically cheaper, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's just, but branding this whole thing as all of these poor financial decisions as girl math is not, it's not cute, okay? It's not cutesy, it's not demure, it's not mindful, it's not any of those things. You can't just like yassify everything you say and then make it sound all right. You know what I mean? Calling it girl math does nothing positive for anybody. And I do mean that in the most genuine way. We're not going to get anywhere. And this is part of something I probably won't go into great detail on right now, but I might later. I say this like with my whole chest, and this is solely a personal opinion that I am sure a lot of people disagree with, but I hate the I'm just a girl trend. I do. I do. I genuinely just am very against it, and I'm not saying that you're a stupid, terrible person if you say it. I'm not. That's not at all what I'm doing. But I hate the I'm just a girl trend because it's not feminist. It's actually very anti-feminist. It goes against all of the progress that feminists have tried to make with the movement. You're just going against it and saying, well, I'm just a girl. It's just girl math. Like, no, it's just, like, you can't just rebrand not having financial literacy and not understanding how money works as girl math. That is, hold on. I just can't. Ugh. It's just insulting. It's just reinforcing the idea that women can't handle these sorts of things. Like, it wasn't that long ago that women couldn't have credit cards. They couldn't buy their own houses without a man's signature. Like, all of these things. And instead, you're just trying to, like, yassify it, sort of, so that you can make it sound, like, good for the algorithm. And it's not. It's not. This is it's a genuine issue. And so, girl math being this, like, branch of the I'm just a girl trend is just, it's very against any sort of feminist ideology that, for the most part, really genuine feminism, that's not, it's anti-feminist, really, and it's just feeding into this, this increasing culture of insane, like, levels of overconsumption, which is also a whole sort of other branch of the issue that I might talk about eventually, but it's not I don't know. My thing is just, it's not so girly pop to not understand how to make financial decisions as a grown woman. It's not. And it's not necessarily on you for getting into these positions. It's not a blaming thing. That's what these companies are for. They're setting you up so that you are in these sorts of positions, so that you have debt, so that you owe them money, so that they can keep running. But I just, specifically, it's just the rebranding it as some sort of extension of the I'm just a girl trend of girl math. No, just please stop. It's not, I don't know. I don't know. I could probably keep going, but I think I'm going to cut it off around here. I'm kind of losing my voice. But anyways, yeah. So, please, I don't know. Maybe just, if you do, like, say girl math in a genuine way, and not necessarily just in the context of these kinds of plans, but just in, like, a general way, because I have seen a lot of people say it, unironically, just, could you maybe explain it to me? I don't know. Like, I just genuinely don't understand, and I think it's doing a lot of harm. So, I don't know. I just wanted to rant about that. So, yeah. I don't know how to end this. Now I'm just kind of sad. But yeah. So please tell me what you think about that in the comments, I guess. Because I genuinely am curious. I want to know. I'm not trying to judge you. Again, this isn't like a call out of any sort or trying to like make you feel shitty about yourself. It's just a thought. It's just thoughts that I've been having and I wanted to get down in some sort of concrete way. Without having to like rewrite stuff and whatever. So, yeah. So, thank you if you watched all the way through this. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry if you did. But I think that's about it. So yeah. Thanks, I guess. And, bye. So, bye.